Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and non-binary friends. If it's your first time here, welcome. If it's not, welcome back to Actors with Issues with me, your host Juan Ayala, bringing you another quick and casual chat with the delightful actor from the small screen and the big screen. Today's guest is an actor you've seen in film and television, most recently in Hulu's Catch-22 and Prime Video's Outer Range, and coming up in the highly anticipated Top Gun Maverick, starring alongside Tom Cruise, Miles Teller, Jennifer Connelly, to name a few. It's Lewis Pullman. Lewis, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Juan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So we always start with a quick rapid fire game. So
Okay.
we're gonna just throw some this or that questions at you, starting with coffee or tea,
Coffee,
film or television,
film,
drama or comedy,
dramedy,
hero or villain,
villain,
horror movie or rom-com.
rom-com.
What is the last TV show you binge watched?
Working through Ozarks right now.
What was your first non-acting job?
I was a busboy.
And if you could guest star on any TV show, which would you choose?
Righteous Gemstones.
Good choice. Good job. And lastly, describe your most memorable audition in 3 words, and then no further explanation needed. And memorable can mean good or bad, so that's up to you.
Okay. Teddy bear, dancing, humiliation.
We'll let the audience try and piece that one together.
Yeah.
So, Lewis, you grew up in a family of actors. Many folks know your dad, Bill Pullman.
Yeah.
Did you grow up in sets and find a love for acting early on, or did that come a little bit later in life for you?
I mean, came a little bit later for me. I think my dad always kept us a little bit separate from the world. He
Mm,
let us decide whether we wanted to be a part of it or not. But I came from a very artistic and theatrical family. We were always trying to do imitations of people and bits and, putting on plays and stuff for whoever would sit down and watch us. But yeah, I think, my dad was always just like, if he wants to do it, he'll find his way to it. And I eventually did, in high school, I found the love for it.
And fast forwarding now to 2022, with Top Gun Maverick. Firstly, congrats on the film. I got to see it in IMAX, so just I literally felt like I was in the cockpit with you guys because of like the
Yeah.
sound and the scope of everything. It was just so incredible. The in-flight action sequences were just like out of this world. So like huge congrats on the movie. It was incredible.
Thank you, Juan. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah. That's all Tom Cruise making sure it's done, for real. Even me watching it, I get like goosebumps. Like I feel like I'm sitting back in the cockpit again. I know that there was a joke that at one point they were going to have to maybe make a different edit of the film with all of the because we got so much footage, but some of it is almost too disorienting and maybe was going to make audience members nauseous. So we were like, should we release Top Gun? Can you handle it, Maverick? With like barf bags in in front of you. But yeah, so I think that yeah, I'm looking at Tom Cruise on the poster here. I feel safe, like he's watching over me even now. But yeah, I never felt like I was in the wrong hands. I think Tom Cruise, there's nobody better than him to design the flight course that we had to go through flight course training in order to get up there and do what we did. But yeah, even though there was some moments of like, am I equipped to handle this? I think I would just remember that, Tom, created this thing for us to succeed. We were built to succeed because he was kind of our guardian angel.
Mm. And with the film having been delayed so many times because of the pandemic and then wanting to get all of those action sequences just right, it's finally here. Production went as far back as 2018. So what does it feel like now that the movie's finally here for audiences to see? Are you nervous? Are you excited, eager?
All of the above. I think, it really makes sense that it's coming out right now. Tom, he never settles for mediocre. He's always in the pursuit of how can we make this the best movie and the best storytelling possible. And I think he and Joe Kaczynski knew that this was born to be in theaters, and this was born to be shared with a jam-packed audience full of people who love the original or people who haven't seen it. I think this movie is kind of made for anybody who likes watching movies and likes to be put on a wild ride.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really can't imagine, like so many other movies were sort of put to streaming, sort of also while in theaters. I cannot imagine watching this movie like on just one's personal TV.
No
It just
way.
it wasn't made for that, you know?
Yeah, seriously. I think I don't even think they should put it on airplanes to watch on airplanes because it's just like just gonna do such a disservice to what we did and what was done in the movie as a whole. It's like, yeah, you want it to like blast through your whole peripheries and you want to be immersed in it. As you said, like you want to feel like you when you walk out of that theater a little wobbly, like maybe you just got out of a jet.
And with the very intensive training you guys underwent for several months for the flight sequences, on top of the typical production days of your lines and acting and blocking and everything, what would you say was the most challenging part and then the most thrilling part of the process?
It was a thrill and a challenge every day. One, I was like nothing I've ever experienced. And it kind of snuck up on me, like what we were actually doing. Because in the beginning, when we auditioned, they were like, "Are you afraid of flying?" And I think most of us were like, "No, yeah, I'm flying commercially all the time." And they're like, "Okay, cool, that should be good enough. We'll get you where we need to be." We're like, "Okay, what does that mean?" And then eventually, yeah, getting up in these planes, and we started in a Cessna, and then we moved on to an extra 300, and then an L-39, and then moved into the F-18. And each plane, kind of handles G's differently. So it was a real crash course. Tom basically gave us like 2 years of aviation training condensed into 2-3 months. And so it was there was some uncomfortable moments. It's definitely not like sitting in a cubicle on your office chair. It's hard to explain. I'm still trying to figure out how to convey the whole experience because it was so astronomically different from any film or TV I've ever done.
Even with other films that are sort of action based, there is that sort of fight choreography, but you're not actually taking the blows. There is still a sense of sort of that choreography, that back and forth. But with these sequences, it's just you're there. You're either there or you're not. And
Yeah,
and
yeah, in a lot
yeah.
of ways it was sort of meta because I mean, in some ways it was a huge challenge because we had to do these things that we had never done before, but in a lot of ways it was set up in this kind of meta, almost like method way where we were supposed to be, learning under Maverick, we were learning under Tom Cruise, and we were supposed to be flying in planes, we were flying in planes. So there was a lot in some senses of acting that you didn't have to do. It
Mm,
was really helpful in that sense because it was all set up for us.
mm. And given the name of our show, Actors with Issues, we do delve into some of the show business topics. And I'm curious if there's anything that comes to mind as a total misconception, something that you believed or that is believed by many that you learned was just not true about the entertainment industry.
Good question. I would say, I mean, when you're first starting out, being selective about what you want to do, I think I found uh, that it was extremely helpful for me to just say yes to everything, however passionate about it I was, and however much I may have connected to it. I just kind of tried to laser in on one thing that I really enjoyed or connected with about the project. And that way I built a real comfort in front of the camera. And so that eventually it could feel like it wasn't there. Um, and yeah, I would say, wait, I mean, I'm still, wait until you're a little further on in your career to get picky, I think. I don't know. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I feel like definitely early on, if you get too picky, it's like, well, you won't be working much if you're passing everything up.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And there's always fun to be had in any project. It's just fun to be working.
And if you could go back and let's say you met your 13-year-old self and you said to young Lewis, you're going to be in the sequel to this massive classic film from the 80s, how do you think that they'd react?
I think I would probably say I'll believe it when I see it.
Mm.
But also I would probably be like, all right, I better get up in these planes now and start training because so I can be ready. Um, Yeah, I think I would also, I mean, I wouldn't really believe it. I remember watching the movie for the first time, and these guys are kind of like gods. They're like just so cool, you know, everything they do, how they walk, how they talk, how they dress is just, there's so much swagger to it. And also, you know, there's such passion and there's such a drive to, you know, I think Tom is the greatest example of this, as is Maverick. That, you know, the movie as a whole is all about, you know, your greatest enemy is yourself in some ways,
Mm.
and how, you know, Tom is always trying to break records, but the only person he's really competing with is himself, you know?
Right.
So how can you continue to overcome what you think your limits are?
Mm. And it's interesting, that's such a great sort of lesson for actors as well. Lord knows that we can be our own worst critics
Yeah,
and the toughest on ourselves. So that's
always.
definitely a huge takeaway from the
Yeah.
movie as well.
Yeah, good point.
And I just want to wrap up with our last question. So, in 10 words or less, what advice would you give to a young actor?
10 words or less. Um, find that thin line of taking it seriously and enjoying it.
We'll just
That was
isolate that last.
11. But I think I'm stealing from Bill Camp, who I just worked with, who told me, you know, that it's always I'm now just going to blast through 10 words, but it's always a pursuit of finding that fine line between treating it like, you know, it's the most dire, precious thing, while also remembering to kind of throw it all away and remember to just be in it and enjoy it and have fun doing it.
Awesome.
That's
Well,
the
Lewis, thank you so much for joining us on the show. And again, huge congrats on the film.
Thanks, Juan. Appreciate all the fun
Yeah.
questions.
All right, folks, and that is it from us today on Actors with Issues. Be sure to give us a follow on Instagram at Actors with Issues. Give me a follow at Juanial Official and check out all of our full video interviews at youtube.com/Actors with Issues podcast, or listen on the go wherever you get your podcasts every Monday. And we'll have bonus episodes every Thursday for the entire month of May. And don't miss Lewis Pullman in Top Gun Maverick, finally in theaters everywhere, May 27th. I'm Juaniala. This is Actors with Issues, and we'll see you next week.